Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Oregon Minute. This week we have Superintendent Leslie Bergstrom. She is checking in with us regarding the school district now that it seems the pandemic is ending, hopefully. At least there's
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
at least there's some hope on the horizon, right? So how are you, Leslie?
Well, thank you for asking. Really good. The kids are doing well. They're back in school and we only have a couple of days left for that, but soon enough we'll see many of them again in summer school, and that's all very positive.
So when you on this last year, or when you think back on this last year as superintendent, Leslie, having led the district through one of the worst health crises in a century, what are some of the lessons that you take away from that?
Well, first, I want to say that I was really, really glad to be here, to have to experience the last year in any community. I'm really grateful that it was this one. So that's how I'll start. But then I think one of the next most important lessons learned, I would say, is the importance of staying true to our values as a school district. As we made decisions throughout this unprecedented time, staying true to the values and really keeping our students at the center of every decision that is made, that's been helpful. It's really guided us through, and I think it's put us in a better place at the end of this than we would have been if we didn't already have really established core values that guided our decisions. I'd say the next lesson learned is the importance of flexibility. We all have to be very adaptable and flexible, and which really gets to the other point, and that's the importance of empathy in everything we do, right? Because this required our students, most importantly, but also our staff and our families to do things differently and really interrupt the way the routine of the family went, right? In order to ensure their child could continue to access their education throughout this school year. So really having empathy for all those very difficult decisions that families had to make, that our staff had to make, because they have families too, right? So trying to navigate all of those pieces throughout this time. So being flexible and having a lot of empathy, and then finally, it's pretty obvious, but working together, right? I can't imagine experiencing this last year with a better team of people. I mean, not just the administrators with whom I work really closely, but certainly the school board. They have been amazing leaders throughout this. I would say that, the guidance that I received from, at the time, School Board President Zach and now School Board President Flanagan has been invaluable, as has the leadership the other board members have demonstrated. And then nothing happens without our teachers, right? They've done the heavy lift in every single part of this, and they've been a part of the team and making the decisions and giving the input and saying this doesn't work and this really does. And then when I say team, I mean our students and our families too, because it took everybody. It really did.
How do you think you mentioned students, but how do you think the pandemic has impacted students, and how has the district responded to that?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the first things that we learning is the reason that we're here, right? We're a learning institution, but learning means a lot of things. It means, of course, academic skills and content, but it also means learning as far as social emotional skills. And the academic content really needs to be laid on the foundation of strong interpersonal relationships, right? The teacher and the students to one another, the adults at school and the adults at home. It's all about really strong connected relationships. And the students in particular, if they don't have that, then the foundation isn't set for learning. So we spent a lot of time, and I'm sure some people think too much time, in the setting of relationships and establishing, whether it was virtual or in person, a culture that's warm, that welcomes everyone, and that gives kids a sense of belonging. Because that, as I said, that's the foundation of all other things. So we spent a lot of time in that area, and we did a lot of check-ins with our students related to health and wellness, because of how important that was at this time when kids were experiencing more social isolation than they've ever experienced in their life. So a lot of check-ins, a lot of monitoring, a lot of intentional lesson design to include social emotional learning, because we know how important it is. And then as far as the impact on the acquisition of academic content, I mean, I think we'll probably be uncovering evidence of impact for a very long time. However, what we know right now is that our students did still grow, right? They grew, and that's really important. And while some people really thrived in this situation, some people were really challenged in this situation. And so how we approach next year is probably just as important as how we approach this year. And what we're really committed to is not taking an approach that focuses on remediation, taking an approach that focuses on building on the strengths the students bring to us and accelerating the learning by focusing on essential standards as opposed to filling holes. Because what we find with that is that it doesn't get kids where they need to go. And, you know, there's a whole long history of research that proves that to us, that just trying to make up for stuff and going really quickly doesn't really work. It's about narrow and deep and focus on the relationships.
I imagine some of that might apply to staffing and retention. How has the pandemic impacted that area of the district?
Like I said, I can't, I mean, I almost at a loss for words when I start talking about our staff and what they did this year, and how they made their decisions and what they focused on and the importance they placed really on the whole child. I mean, we've had the whole child as the center of our Apple graphic since 2015, right? But this is the year that was really put to the test. Do we really consider every aspect of the whole child when we're designing our learning experiences, when we're thinking about how do we reach out to kids to make sure that they're okay in every sense of the word? So as I said, I can't say enough about the staff. And it is all about relationships. And it's also about our relationships with one another as members of the OST staff, right? How we leaned on each other, how we supported each other, how we consistently had kind words for one another, how we worked hard to make sure that we stayed cohesive and aligned. So the staff retention's been great. We still have applicants for our district, even though it's a very tight market. And the people who we have stay with us. And we have a few more retirements this year than we've had in other years, but I don't think that's really related to the pandemic. I think that just happens to be a quirk of where we are as a district, the number of people and the number of years of experience they bring. But yeah, I'm worried about the staff in the sense that I always want the best for them, and I want this to be a place, all of us want this to be a place where everybody's really happy that they work here, right? But as far as retention, no, we do really well with retention, and this year's no difference.
So then shifting gears, we talked about the past, but what about the future? Obviously, we think we have a plan, right? When we're planning for future, well, when the district is planning for future enrollment, you know, new buildings, referendums, all of that. How has the pandemic impacted how the district plans for the future, or will plan for the future?
Sure. Well, recently we restarted our work with Mark Roberts, the population and growth consultant that did our original report back in, I believe it was 2016, because we wanted him to check in on growth, right? And what has been the impact of the pandemic, and honestly, the impact of this housing market, because we're experiencing quite an interesting housing market in Dane County right now too. So his report, which will be updated numbers related to expected growth over the next 5, 10 plus years, that's expected this week. And we're really excited about that because we used his past report to help us plan, and we want to see how things have changed given all of these unforeseen circumstances. So we'll be utilizing that report to do a number of really important things coming up. And one of the first things is putting together a community group to participate in a facility study, right, related to recreation facilities around the community, and how are we best utilizing them. We want to make sure that we're thinking of all aspects of our growth. Our schools, of course, number one, but we also know how important other activities are to kids, and we want to make sure that we have a strong growth plan related to that too. And I'd say the next really important piece in our future, the next few steps we're taking, and that is to create what we have been referring to as the portrait of a graduate. For a long time, the board has had a policy. It's called Policy 41102. And it comes after the list. 41101 is the list of all the credits students have to earn to graduate. 41102 was sort of a big dream about characteristics and skills and attributes that we wanted our students to have when they walked across the stage and they received their Oregon diploma. Well, the world continues to change. And so I think it's always a really good thing to revisit that. What do our kids need to have success in whatever next step they take in life? So one of the first next steps we're taking as a district is to revisit that and to solicit input from the community, from the staff, from students regarding what skills, characteristics, and attributes do our students need to have when they have an Oregon diploma and they are ready for the next step in their life. And I'm really excited to see what all of those stakeholder groups have to tell us regarding what they think our students need, and then refining that, creating a vision of a portrait of a graduate, and then refining 41102 as a policy, and then using that as our North Star, right? What do we want for our students when they end their experience with us? And then honestly, whether you teach 4K or you teach 12th grade, you know what the North Star is, right? What we want for our kids and what we want to be slowly building into their experience. So that's a really important next step that we're very excited about.
Wow, that's a lot to look forward to, it sounds like.
It is.
I'm sure there will be plenty of stories in the Observer. Well, Leslie, I think this has been a great conversation. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on the show again. I remember when we first had you on last summer, things looked very different back then. Is there anything else you'd like to share with viewers before we conclude today?
Well, because I am a cheerleader for the district, I don't mind telling you a few good things that have popped up over the course of the year, because we know this year has been filled with tremendous challenges, but there have been some bright spots. And while the bright spots aren't always awards, as a matter of fact, very rarely are they awards, this year we had a lot of bright spots attached to awards. We were 1 in 10 schools in Wisconsin named to the AP honor roll. And we received our 3rd Best Community for Music Education Award. We've had students, our wonderful students, winning local, state, and national math competitions. I mean, that's really cool. In addition to many of our athletes attending state meets or state games, they qualified for state. We had a regional spelling bee qualifier. I mean, our kids just continue to do great things. Martin Luther King Outstanding Person Awards. So even though this has been an extraordinarily challenging year, and a lot of things have been difficult for a lot of kids, we also have some really bright spots. And I just wanted a chance to highlight them because I'm very proud of our students, and I'm very proud of our staff.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Leslie. And it's just great to be hearing such great things coming out of the school district. And it seems, again, I will, reiterate what I said at the beginning. It seems that hope is on the horizon. Crossing my fingers, right? But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to our viewers for being so supportive of us always. Like I always say, we have episodes every Thursday at 7 p.m. So please tune in. Thank you, everyone.